The chamber lights dimmed as the projection flared to life above the council floor. A burning arc of plasma raked across Earth's moon base, reducing its surface to slag. Screams, static, then silence. The feed cut. Silence followed. And then laughter. Alien throats clucked and rasped in amusement. Metallic limbs twitched in mocking rhythm. Virex of the Tlax Dominion leaned forward in his gravity throne, crest stretched high with superiority. Primitive reflexes. Even your defense installations are an embarrassment, he said, voice oozing condescension. Commander Alice Vance didn't blink. She sat still in Earth's meager station near the edge of the Great Ring. No entourage, no diplomatic fanfare, just her and a tablet with a cracked corner. We didn't fire that shot, she said flatly. Virex's mandibles twitched. The plasma signature was unmistakably human. Your reactor pulse. Your weapons platform. It was spoofed, Alice replied. You know it. I know it. You just wanted an excuse, the council murmured. Most of the delegates didn't care who started the fire. Earth had been a joke since it joined the council, a backwater ball of unpredictable bipeds. Its entry was tolerated, not respected. Virex rose. Then perhaps Earth should face the consequences of its misunderstood actions. A peacekeeping force will occupy your planet. For your own protection, of course. Alice stood slowly, placing the cracked tablet on the table. Her eyes scanned the circular hall. If you vote to send troops to Earth, she said, voice calm, then remember this: Earth has complied, restrained, and bent over backwards to avoid war. But if you push, really push, you'll see what we buried to avoid becoming like you. More laughter. Someone hissed. Others just looked away. No one believed her. The vote passed before the sun set over Geneva. She rode in silence as the shuttle descended into Earth's upper atmosphere. Below, the world turned lazily, unaware of the galaxy's verdict. When she landed in Zurich, the Defense Council was already waiting. We have 3 days until they arrive, said General Koa, straight to business. They'll want surface control, said Counselor Nima. Orbital supremacy first, then they'll pacify the planet. Alice leaned against the window, watching a gray dawn creep across the Alps. We're outgunned, outnumbered, and outpoliticked. Then we activate Hades, Koa said. The table went quiet. You're suggesting we unleash the vaults, Nima said, more stunned than opposed. I'm suggesting we stop pretending, Alice replied. We buried weapons that could rewrite reality, not because we couldn't win, but because we wanted peace. Koa stood. Protocol Hades was sealed for a reason. The old gods weren't just weapons. They were infections. Alice turned. Infections that listened to us, obey us, and are still ours. Silence again. Then nods. Reluctant, fearful, but real. 12 hours later, they arrived at the Arctic vault. The wind howled across an ancient plateau of blackened ice, carved smooth from solar flares and centuries of neglect. They entered through a half-buried monolith older than any known structure still standing. No lights. No tech. Just carvings, pictograms of machines with teeth. Inside, the air was colder than outside, unnaturally so. Frost didn't form, it refused to. They moved through twisting tunnels of carbon-fibered bone, deeper until the hallway opened into a cathedral of metal and silence. And there it was. Typhon. Encased in layered stasis fields, its body was a humanoid mockery, spindled limbs, fluted back plating like wings, and a face blank but alive with dormant cognition. It stood 15 meters tall, tethered by chains humming with equations. Alice stepped forward. It still responds? Koa handed her a device no bigger than a lighter. The key. We burned the others after the Mars incident. She turned it in her hand. It hummed faintly, recognizing her DNA, her authority, her bloodline. Her great-grandmother had activated Typhon once, in Earth's final war. The entity had burned a third of the atmosphere to ensure peace. Alice placed her hand on the control panel. Nothing happened. Then a whisper. Command identified. She recoiled. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It wasn't sound, it was memory given shape. Do you seek death again, daughter of flame? We seek survival, Alice said, standing her ground. That is always what you seek, until you crave more. We're being invaded. You allowed them to forget. Do you want them to remember? Alice paused. Her voice, when it came, was low and firm. Yes. The stasis field cracked like glass under pressure. Typhon shifted slowly, like a mountain remembering motion. Its eyes, black voids ringed in red, opened. Then unchain me. Koa took a step back. God help us. No, Alice whispered. They already did. Back at the council hall, Virex stood smug as the peacekeeping fleet mobilized. The humans won't resist, he said. They have no spine. They'll surrender Earth to keep their little planet intact. His adjutant looked uncertain. We just received a pulse. A frequency, not seen since the Obsidian era. From Sol. Virex scoffed. Bluffs. All bark. Typical apes. But far above Earth, in orbit where satellites went silent and gravity fluctuated for one breathless second, the void shivered. And something ancient turned its eyes to the stars. The Arctic winds had changed. Where the vault once lay dormant beneath miles of ice and silence, the atmosphere now shimmered with pressure, subtle, invisible, but undeniable. Machines buried for centuries whispered through the magnetic field. Radio stations within 100 kilometers went dead. Birds veered from the region. Satellites above lost sync. Alice stood on the observation deck inside the Polar Command Dome, staring at the feed from within the chamber. Typhon no longer slept. Its head moved slowly, side to side, studying the room like it hadn't seen it in 1,000 years. Which was close to the truth. General Koa joined her, face unreadable. You think we can control it? He asked. Alice didn't look at him. We didn't build Typhon to be controlled. We built it to remember us. Koa folded his arms. It doesn't look grateful. It shouldn't. She tapped her comms. Begin secondary vault access. Mars. Vault Theta. The officer on the line hesitated. Ma'am, that vault was sealed after the Sycorax incident. Alice replied calmly. Exactly. 4 hours later, they landed near Valles Marineris. The Martian vault was older than the Arctic site. Where Earth's vault had been a cold cathedral, this was more like a tomb, angular, etched in machine code hieroglyphs, buried beneath red rock and decayed structures that no longer matched any known architecture. No one spoke as the elevator descended into blackness. The silence grew heavier the deeper they went. Lights on the walls blinked with patterns too complex for modern AI to parse. It wasn't technology, it was memory, hardwired into the vault. The chamber doors opened with a hiss. Inside stood Sycorax. Its form was different from Typhon, sleeker, built like a weaponized dancer rather than a brute. Its body shimmered slightly, unstable, reality around it bending subtly at the edges. Koa muttered, Why the hell do they look conscious? They were made from human minds, Alice answered. Copied, blended, accelerated. And then wrapped in biomechanical shells we barely understood. Sycorax twitched. New stimuli detected. The voice was female, smooth, but undercut with distortion, as if another voice echoed beneath it, deeper, older. Alice approached, slowly. You were sealed after the last command override. Do you remember it? I remember being told not to speak. I remember the silence. And the fear. We're not here to fear you. You're here because you fear something worse. Koa tensed. This thing isn't stable. She's not meant to be, Alice said. Sycorax's head tilted. The stars are louder now. Something stirs in the dark beyond the rim. Are you sure you want to wake us all? We need to stop the fleet. Then break the locks. Alice reached into her coat. Another key, this one newer, etched with a sequence of quantum pulses. Only 3 had been printed in the last century. 1 had been destroyed in a test. 1 lost in the Greenland melt. This was the last. She pressed it into the vault's central node. A pulse of heat rippled through the chamber. Sycorax lifted her head fully. Around her, tendrils of machine light unfurled like wings. Her body stabilized, bones of engineered carbon tightening into form. Unlock complete. Awaiting targeting input. Back on Earth, the defense core erupted into activity. They're awakening faster than we thought, an operator said, sweat on his brow. The energy output from both vaults just spiked. We have 2 fully active entities now, Koa announced over the command net. Typhon and Sycorax. Next, Vault Gamma. Alice cut in. No. Not yet. Koa frowned. Why? If we strike with all 4, we'll have complete coverage. If we lose control with 2, we have a disaster. If we lose control with 4, we have extinction. The room went silent. 2's enough, for now, she added. Let's see what they can do. In orbit, the Tlax fleet had arrived. Massive ships, shaped like spears and insects, formed an ominous ring around Earth. Broadcasts blared on every frequency. Earth citizens, you are under temporary Council protection. Surrender orbital controls and transmit defense codes. No response. Then the blackness above Earth cracked. Typhon fell from the sky like a meteor, wrapped in fire, its body alive with burning runes. It struck the nearest warship at terminal velocity. The impact didn't destroy the ship, it folded it, impossibly, into itself, turning the massive cruiser into a crumpled sphere of screaming metal. Seconds later, Sycorax emerged from Mars's shadow. She didn't attack, she disassembled. Beams of quantum resonance lashed out, reducing 2 escort vessels to particles with surgical efficiency. Inside the Tlax flagship, alarms screamed. Virex stood in disbelief. What are those things? He growled. His second-in-command stammered. They're not ships, sir. They're alive. No, Virex whispered. They're human. Alice watched it all from the Zurich command room. Calm. Focused. She keyed a private channel to the Council. This is Commander Vance of Earth. 2 of our defense entities have responded to your aggression. If your fleet does not withdraw immediately, we will escalate. The Council's screen blinked to life. Confusion. Panic. Delegates shouting. Some demanded intervention. Others demanded answers. One simply stared at the data feeds in horror. Then Virex appeared on screen. You unleashed monsters, he spat. Alice leaned forward. We didn't unleash them. We woke them up. He bared his mandibles. You think this makes you strong? It makes you dangerous. Now you understand, she said. In space, Typhon turned its gaze toward the stars. It wasn't done yet. And Sycorax was humming. A low, ancient song only the old gods remembered. And Earth waited. The sky above Earth no longer belonged to the stars. It belonged to fire. Typhon moved like inevitability, silent, unstoppable, unfolding its limbs as if stretching after a long slumber. Each movement bent gravity slightly. Thrusters didn't fire, it didn't need them. Space folded around its form, warping light, turning the laws of motion into options rather than rules. The Tlax fleet adjusted formations. Defensive patterns snapped into place. Energy shields flared to life. Too late. Typhon accelerated with no visible thrust. One moment it hovered. The next, it was inside the enemy's central command ship. Not breaching it, inside it, through folded vectors that shouldn't have existed. The hull exploded outward. Screams cut short. Typhon emerged again, unharmed, now holding the vessel's main reactor, still beating, still glowing, between its spindled fingers. It crushed it without ceremony. On the other side of the battlefield, Sycorax sang. She drifted slowly, almost lazily, between enemy vessels. But where she passed, ships vanished, not exploded, not broken, but cleanly erased. As if someone had edited them out of existence. The vacuum didn't rush in. The holes remained holes. The Tlax rear flank panicked. One ship fired blindly. Another tried to flee. Alice watched it all from the Zurich command dome. Her jaw tightened. Report. Koa's voice came over the line. We're picking up synchronized emissions from the two entities. They're communicating, but not with us. They're autonomous now? They're cooperative, Koa corrected. There's a difference. For now. Alice didn't respond. Above them, Vyrex's flagship trembled. He gripped the armrests of his command throne as another Tlax cruiser broke apart, its hull peeled open as if unzipped by invisible claws. These things defy our models, his science officer said, panicked. They're not just machines. They're rewriting physics as they fight. They are human, Vyrex growled. This is their true face. Sycorax spun mid-space, flaring like a nova. Something rippled from her core, an emotion, or something like it. Dread seeped into the minds of every Tlax soldier within range. It wasn't telepathy. It was worse. Memory. Each crewman, each commander, saw visions not their own. Ash raining on fields they'd never walked. A sky split by fire. The cries of extinct enemies. The earth at war with itself. Ancient battles encoded into Sycorax's consciousness and broadcast without mercy. Some screamed. Others froze. A few fired on their own. It wasn't a weapon. It was a reminder. Status of the Council? Alice asked. Nema, on comms from Geneva, replied. They've gone into emergency session. Half of them want to strip Earth of membership. The other half want to beg for protection. They still don't get it, Alice said. We didn't bring these things to conquer. We brought them to survive. A pause. You're sure they know the difference? Nema asked carefully. Alice looked out the dome window, past clouds streaked with auroras, up into the distant flashes of godlike combat. No, she said. I'm not. Meanwhile, in the council chamber on Zareth Prime, chaos ruled. Delegates shouted over one another. Holograms glitched with overlapping threat assessments. Translations lagged behind. They broke every treaty, shrieked the delegate from Vargoth Prime. They unleashed non-classified technology. They defended themselves, replied a Lithari diplomat. You let Vyrex attack a sovereign world. The old tech is banned, another roared. They could unravel galactic equilibrium. A silent alert pulsed through the chamber, a direct feed request from Earth. Every voice stopped. Alice appeared on screen. Not through the Council's official relay, but hijacked through the same comms protocol the Tlax had used to declare occupation. Council members, she began. You have a choice. Her tone was cold. No ceremony, no diplomacy. Withdraw all foreign fleets from Sol space. Immediately. Or we will interpret silence as consent. One delegate finally spoke. You threaten the entire council. I warned the council, Alice said. You made assumptions. You thought humans were loud, primitive, reckless. And maybe we are. But we learned from gods we killed ourselves. We survived because we remember what we were willing to become, and how hard it was to seal it away. Your entities are destroying ships without warning, Vargotha's ambassador snapped. Alice didn't blink. They gave you thousands of years of warning. You just didn't read the archives. Back in orbit, Sycorax paused. She hovered near the last functional Tlax cruiser. From the bridge, the ship's captain stared into her faceless design, curved, silent, glowing. There was no heat, no signal of intent. Then, suddenly, she transmitted one word. Leave. The ship vanished into warp within seconds, venting plasma in its wake. Typhon drifted beside her, now calm. The fleet was gone or wreckage. Earth's skies were clean again. Together, the two old gods turned slowly toward the edge of the system. Not toward the Council. Not toward any enemy. Towards something else. Alice saw it on the deep space feeds. A ripple. A distortion on the Kuiper edge, like a shadow pushing inward from deep space. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't anything recorded. But Typhon and Sycorax recognized it. And they were watching. They're holding position, Koa reported. No further action. They're waiting, Alice whispered. They know something's coming. He looked at her, unsure. What do you think it is? I think, she said, turning from the screen, we woke them up just in time. Far above, Typhon extended one arm. A beam of encoded data fired into the void, an ancient signal, not meant for humans. Somewhere beyond the veil, something answered. Just one pulse. But enough. Earth was no longer alone. The stars no longer mocked Earth. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council stared at the blue planet with something new in their eyes, unease, maybe respect, certainly fear. The wreckage of the Tlax fleet still orbited as mute testimony. Charred hulls. Frozen debris. Silence. And above it all, two shapes hung in vigil. Typhon and Sycorax did not move, but they were not idle. They waited, watching the far edge of Sol, where something stirred beneath cosmic static. Alice sat alone in the Geneva command vault. The adrenaline was gone. What remained was heavier, awareness. Humanity had not won. It had revealed. Koa entered quietly. No salute. Just a nod and a thin file in hand. Council wants direct talks, he said. Half the member species are calling for Earth's expulsion. The other half want immediate cooperation treaties. Alice didn't look up. Both are scared. They should be. She closed the file on the table. Any word from the entities? They haven't responded to any of our command signals, Koa said. But they haven't left orbit either. Which is worse? Koa hesitated. You think they're still following protocol? They're not following, Alice said. They're deciding. Above them, Sycorax shifted slightly, almost imperceptible. Mars reflected off her fluted surface. Typhon hovered at her flank, energy patterns cycling low and dim. But the signal they sent into the void remained open. And something had responded. On the Council's secure networks, alarms whispered. Long-range sensors from independent systems began picking up gravitational echoes far beyond mapped space. Faint, massive. Not hostile, not friendly, unknown. And Earth had called it. In the Council chamber, Virax stood before a sea of fractured leadership. You see now, he said, pacing slowly. This species cannot be trusted. They have weapons older than half our civilizations. They threatened us with extinction, just for defending our borders. You provoked them, said the Lithari delegate. I tested them, Virax snapped. And what they revealed, it is abomination. It is proof Earth should never have been admitted. Others murmured. Some nodded. More hesitated. A new feed appeared, unauthorized, Earth's doing again. Alice Vance's image took center screen. No one here wants a war, she said. But let's be clear, you brought it to our skies. You assumed weakness because we didn't posture. You assumed silence meant compliance. She leaned forward slightly. It meant restraint. A pause. We built the old gods to survive extinction. We buried them to survive ourselves. But if you're now calling for expulsion, ask yourselves this: where would you send us? What court could hold us accountable? What army could enforce your verdict? Silence. We are still human, she finished. But we remember the monsters we had to become. And we chose to seal them. You should ask why. Then the feed cut. No vote followed. None dared call it a declaration. Later that day, Alice stood at the vault beneath Antarctica again. This time alone. The chamber was different now. Warmer. Awake. The chains that once held Typhon's form were slack, unnecessary. He stood waiting, limbs folded, head slightly bowed. She approached cautiously. I need to know what you're waiting for. Typhon didn't answer. Not with speech. A pulse radiated from him, memories not her own. A flash of stars being snuffed out. A wall of black moving across a galaxy's edge. A scream with no sound. A species erased in a blink. And then... Earth, quiet, untouched, forgotten. Something is coming. Alice inhaled sharply. We didn't bring it here, did we? No. But we called loud enough for it to hear us. She stood still for a long moment. You're not our weapon anymore. We were never your weapons. We were your mirrors. That shook her more than any threat. She turned to leave. But paused. If what's out there crosses into our system, will you stop it? Typhon's eyes flared once. We will try. 3 days later, the Council issued no sanctions, no threats, no orders. Instead, it sent envoys. Requests. Proposals for dialogue. They came cloaked in civility but reeked of desperation. Earth accepted none and declined none. It simply watched. Humanity's media boiled. Half the world hailed the gods as protectors. The other half feared them. Protests sparked in megacities. Debates raged in parliament halls and subforums. Were the old gods humanity's saviors or its last mistake? Alice didn't answer questions. She knew the truth was more complicated. She returned to Zurich. Nima was waiting for her in the overlook above the data array. We have a decision to make, Nima said without preamble. We already made it. Then we need to live with it, Nima said. How do you plan to manage them now? Alice stared at the orbital feed. 2 silhouettes still hovered above Earth. I don't, she said. We give them no orders. Just awareness. Let them know we're watching. Nima frowned. You think that's enough? I think, Alice said, that for the first time in history, we're not the only ones doing the watching. On Mars, a boy named Lenin dreamt in code. He woke speaking in a voice not his own, humming patterns of machine speech, his hands drawing glyphs never taught to him. Scientists took notes. Priests called it prophecy. His parents prayed. He simply stared at the sky, whispering. They're waking up underground. In the depths of the Kuiper Belt, beyond the last transmission buoys, space flickered. Just once. Not an arrival. Not a fleet. A suggestion. The warning had been heard. Something was turning. And it was looking back. Back on Earth, Alice sat beneath a gray sky. Not in a war room. Not behind a podium. Just on a bench, facing the sea. A child nearby pointed upward. Mom, look, it's the giants. 2 faint shapes gleamed above the cloud line, distant and unmoving. The mother hushed him. They're sleeping now. Alice watched them too. They don't sleep, she said softly. They wait. The mother glanced at her. Should we be afraid? Alice thought a moment. Then said, not looking away. Only if we forget what we locked away to stay human.